Hello. I wanted to talk about today this idea of within the context of our resilience practices, how to create more of those moments that are emotionally encouraging and motivating, and that can help us really push ourselves in you know and be able to stay that track when it just seems like impossible, because there are times in life, I mean, we know this, especially as people who are recovered. There are those times in life where you do have to do the more painful thing, and just try to make it be as pleasant as possible. I mean, it's not sustainable to build our lives around doing the painful, unpleasant feeling things, but there are times where we have to take that out of our toolbox and use it. We have to have that ability when necessary. And yeah, to be able to stay that really difficult path. So it's important to have techniques to help us feel more emotionally encouraged and be able to just, hold space, maintain where we are on the path, and forge forward, even if it's just little tiny steps, and just maintain that faith and belief that this is the direction we are going in. And, it's about intentional certainty, commitment, and faith, rather than looking at all of the fearful, doubt causing things, which are always going to be there. We can always see it, always interpret it, no matter what situation we are in. We will always be able to see those perspectives, but it's crucial for us to be able to be strong and certain and stand in the truth of something. We have to pick that in our lives. What are the things that, like, we stand in and have faith and certainty in, no matter, our options to rationalize for a different way to think or be, or you know there are definitely times where it's necessary to put up that resilience and grit and determination and faith for what we believe in, or for what we want to do. So some of these emotional kind of motivation techniques I've been thinking about are, one I was reading about in Brene Brown's book, Rising Strong. So in her book, she talks about how we have, I just realized I'm using my earbud. I hope it's audible. Um, in Brene Brown's book, she talks about, I think there's a book called Writing to Heal by James Pennebaker or something like that. But she mentions that book, which I have not read, but I'd like to. And she mentions this whole idea of, there's some neurologists also that she mentions, and the neurologist is saying, our brains get a dopamine, or like encouragement, kind of get a sense of satisfaction and security by completed patterns, right? Things that our brain recognizes as familiar, just completed patterns, it has to be familiar to us for our brain to really understand it's a completed pattern. And one of the ways that human cultures have understood to create that feeling of complete pattern, even, and like give us faith to do things even if we haven't personally experienced the pattern necessarily. um, it's through storytelling, because storytelling is a form of a completed pattern. It's a familiar pattern and familiar cycle. And even if the beginning, middle, and end are a little bit, you know, they're, it it just follows that same pattern of a completed pattern. So so that's something that our brains love storytelling, complete stories, full stories, not just like little glimpses of a story, but full stories. Um and also that the other guy who wrote that book, Ready to Heal, was talking about, or Brene Brown was talking about, how writing our own stories is really important, to use that, take advantage of that complete pattern celebration mechanism in our brain, and apply that to our own lives. And so I think that it takes practice. We can kind of formulate where different parts of our lives play a part in our stories. Um, just as we're going about life, just like being like, that's a good sign. It's a part of a good story. Um, but I think it's also important to be able to, take some time and sit and write about our lives and how we would put it into a story. It doesn't have to be super fleshed out and include every single detail, but I think doing this, like, behind the scenes work is important for, as we're going through our lives, our experiences, we can draw back on that story that we did write, that just kind of basic outline, basic plot of our lives, and even including the end, like how we imagine the end to be. And that can be a way to help us feel in the present that sense of reward. Like, yes, we are, all the efforts that we are taking, all the, uncertainty and that feeling of trial, a frequent trial that we are experiencing. We just have faith that it is a part of the greater, bigger story, and this is but momentary pain, kind of like women who are so strong and a little bit crazy that they want to give birth to children. Like, I admire that so much, that form of strength in women. But it's a little bit like that, where you're like, these pains, I got this, because I know that it's going to be so worth it on the other side. People who have that really strong inclination to have give birth to children, that is really, I think, similar for us in our creative processes, because, a big part of resilience is creativity. And really, resilience is both fed by creativity and the feeder of creativity. Creativity is, I think, I mean, there's a dark side of creativity also, the unproductive, the unconscious, unintentional kind of side of using creativity, that whole topic. But sometimes I almost feel like creativity and resilience are synonymous. Like, they are so based on the processes, those really subtle, small processes, those different ways that we use creativity and inspiration to move ourselves emotionally, move how we feel in our bodies, do all these things intentionally and strategically for the purpose of maintaining strength, and maintaining passion, and maintaining discipline slash devotion. I like seeing discipline in form of devotion better, understanding it as devotion, because, discipline has so many associations. So, yeah, I think a lot of, like, it's really hard to try to separate resilience and creativity. And whatever our creative projects, those are really fertile grounds for investigating our resilient skills and our bodily sensations and emotions, and really getting in touch with changing our relationship, to how our thoughts, behavior, and emotions all interplay. You know, I think that is maybe the hallmark of creativity, is it is things that help people change and manage their behavior um, through the emotions that it creates in them. And then they are, the artists who create these things are able to pass it on to other people. And honestly, I really think that, like, kind of these commitments, like, I tend to think of things in terms of commitments, right? A very vague word. Like, it's so important to have a commitment in resilience practices, because that is the training grounds on which we are developing our character, building all these strengths, and really putting things into practice and understanding how it personally relates to us, all our personal reference points, But I think more so than just this generic word of commitment, what it really is creativity and understanding all of these projects in our lives through the lens of creativity. Because even if our practice is, or our focus, our project, our commitment is, having a better dynamic with a partner, for example, if that is kind of like the keystone that you personally place your dreams, your inspiration on, your security in the lifestyle you have, and your needs, and honoring, like, supplying yourself with what you need to be the happiest and healthiest you can, you know, these kinds of things, given your season of life, or if it's just like a lifelong process, or it's, a business is your kind of keystone project, or focus that you feel like is at the heart of all the other factors, nurturing whatever our commitments are, or whatever, like, the main commitment is, nurturing that is always going to involve so much creativity, because we're thinking about how our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors are affected given the different kind of light that we interpret it in, or the different associations that it is gathered within, Like, it, yeah, it's, and that takes so much creativity. Like, it takes so many, I wish I knew how to put it into better words, honestly. But I think that also goes into that felt sense concept in Waking the Tiger, the book Waking the Tiger. I think, for me at least, I mean, I might be just kind of hijacking the concept of felt sense in the way that is useful for me personally, but how I understood it. And what's useful for me to understand it is in the way of it being kind of our inner imagination and associations, and that inner organization we have to feel like we are present in our life, really identify with our life, not feel disconnected and distant and uncommitted from our life, not feeling like it's inauthentic. I think it's just so important to focus on um, these, these more subtle things, just like how, just romanticizing our life, really, bringing that creative aspect to it. Like when we are waking up in the morning, like making things feel really lovely and really like the scene is set, like a strong, powerful scenery and environment that just makes you feel wrapped up and cozy and protected. And part of that is not just props and music and, I don't know, sights and sounds, but a big part of that is this felt sense, is our imagination. Like that's what makes it magical. That's what makes creativity magical, is our perspective, our mind, our heart, our soul, our ability to come into it with this, um, to perceive the aliveness, really, to perceive the the security. So much of it is, subjective. What creative processes kind of and just like components fuel our commitments, our larger creative projects, our keystone creative projects, if you want to call it that. But I think for so many of us, it is just so necessary to start interpreting our lives as a creative project. It's like a creative keystone project kind of thing, and really feeling into and opening our eyes for what are the components that allow us to enjoy the process of it all and to make really intentional decisions, because I think it's through that, or regularly, at least regularly coming back to this perspective of creativity and magic and, these hallmarks of safety, this feeling that we are creating our experience, that we are interdependent on other people and organizations, and so we nurture them so that they can continue to nurture us, and they nurture us so that we'll continue to nurture them. This kind of, this beauty that helps us, it feeds back into this greater picture and understanding that we can come to often, as creatives and as people who care about resilience, because creativity is resilient, makes us resilient. Just being able to understand that all the ways that we interact with our environment, the spirit in which we interact with it, it can feed back into this greater romantic concept of us being good. That sounds really strange, but I mean, as us being, right, not just legally, not right just like I got away with it, no one seemed to get mad, but right in the sense of balance and like this ideal of interdependence, and that beauty and security and rewarding feeling of like when I give in to, or not give in, but when I give of myself, I guess, give of myself and devote myself to the things which sustain me. They give, and they give more into me, that which sustains me. And I think it's really a part of authenticity also to notice what are the ways of living, the approaches we can have, in order to really feel this sense that we are connected to enjoying that inner interdependence, that it's not just like I guess just more and more finding these instances in which it feels like just really rewarding, comfortable, and like what is being given and taken are um, authentically and personally enjoyable and relevant to us, because it's one thing to have these ideas of balance and um, like in a more theoretical idea, and then is a completely different other thing to have these ideas of balance like through our feelings, how we actually feel about things, and if it's relevant to us and authentic to us, because we can have things be like on paper interdependent balance, but if we are not feeling it and we're not able to really get into the magic, the creativity, the romantical vision of it, and it's more like we are seeing it from the, what's it called, like outside looking in perspective of another person, and like, oh, I should be grateful, this is great, another person would love this. I think that is something to look into more for the future, to do some work around for, as we intentionally weave our lives together, learn more about our creativity and our personality, our character, the things about us that aren't changeable, or maybe it would be changeable theoretically, but it's like we have bigger fish to fry that we care about, bigger priorities, different values, and we don't want to change these parts of us. So yeah, I think it's really important to keep on listening to the ways that we can, well, listening to our own, thoughts and feelings and bodily sensations, and just that kind of intuitive feedback and sense of a narrative that we have in our heads as we go through life, to just listen to these things that filter through, and acknowledge, sometimes if we are just pushing so hard, that's not going to be sustainable long term, and it's okay to keep on looking and try different approaches, and it's also okay to decide that our best bet is to accept that things are gonna be really really challenging, and that's a normal part of the process, and to just keep on forging ahead and focusing on ways to feel good, and to just not stop no matter what small steps we take, and to have a good encouraging vision of our creativity and personal measures of success, to have these unfold in a larger timeline maybe. Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to talk about that is really closely related, as related to, ways to manage our our emotions, our bodily sensations, our thoughts, our behaviors, in a way that protects and nurtures our commitments and our creative projects, is being able to really, know our values, identify our personal values, and the criteria by which we decide that we base our self-esteem on, the criteria that we are intentionally deciding, like, okay, this is a part of my values, and I can have myself in high esteem because I am great in these ways, just values that are authentic to us, that we care about, that aren't just like generic social things we inherited. So when we have our values, then we can start, and it's a practice to remember our values sometimes, and be like, oh wait, why do I care about that again? That's not one of my values, um, but it is really important to be like, what are like when we do well within the scope of our self-identified values, it's important to be like, that's a win. That is a win right there. I won. I won. And that value has come alive within me, and being proud of ourselves for that, and really it takes time and practice, but especially if you struggle with like for me, I've definitely struggled with this idea of like, how do I know if what I did was good? It's always based on other people, if other people get angry or just, that's kind of what I based it on. Um, so that can be so confusing and whiplash and not a stable footing at all. And it's just too exhausting, so we don't want to deal with it anymore. We realize we don't like that was the way our mind worked, and that's not helpful anymore. So the way that replaces that is being able to know our values and to practice not saying to ourselves like, I don't know if I did good. Is it good? And needing to kind of get that affirmation or reassurance from other people in order to have self-esteem, to esteem ourselves, to have high regard and respect, and this image of ourselves as a great, worthy, good person doing awesome things in the world, who's necessary, needed, and all this stuff. So another way it is, instead of those affirmations, like, I don't know if I did good. Did I do good? Did I do bad? Did this person's reaction mean that I did bad? And and really getting so hyper fixated to the point that it becomes just so draining. And the whole process of interacting with people for our creative projects, it just is like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. The alternative to that is being able to be like, I did good. I did good. Just affirming to ourselves that we did good. Like, we have assessed our values, and we can use our values to then look at the situation and be like, oh, I did good. I did good. And I think this is especially important when we've been in situations that have been, not really sure what words to use, that don't have a sensationalist tinge to them. Haven't really understood that yet, or, kind of excavated that idea in my mind, but I just mean like being able to honor our own perspective instead of being so dependent on the anger or the happiness of other people, in order to feel good about ourselves, and in order to because self-esteem is tied to our ability to commit, be dedicated, persevere, be consistent, be available, like all these things that are like a part, like the very center of why we are resilient, and in order to have a stable lifestyle that we enjoy, because the purpose of life is to play, experiment, enjoy the process. In order to be able to do these things, we have to feel good about ourselves and have that basic sense of encouragement, like what we are doing is needed, is worthy, is useful, is valuable. And the only way to protect that vision is to train ourselves. It's just a practice, like anything else, to train ourselves to esteem ourselves and validate our actions and feel emotionally connected to the things we're doing, because we're judging it upon our personal values. And we know ourselves. We know how hard we think about things. We know how much we want peace in the world. We know how much we care about our other people. We care about ourselves. We have sacrificed so much. And allowed ourselves to be harmed in order to try to protect or help other people or be what we think they need, and to not hurt people. We know our hearts. We know, if you're like me, at least that's how I am. Like, I know how I am. So I think it's really important to have this balance where we can also ask, how are we, you know, applying this judgment and just our judgment. How are we applying that in a way so that we are setting ourselves up to have good esteem of ourselves? And because we can't deny, we do care about our quality of life. We do trust ourselves. We do want more control over dynamics, and the only way to have this is to practice affirming when we've done good, and also affirming when according to our personal self-determined values. Also when we've done bad, or where we have, the idea of sin, missing the mark, mistake. Mistake is a little bit iffy. I mean, not iffy, but I'm thinking there a lot of times things that are actually good that we've done, if we're not careful, like, other people can try to spin it like we made a mistake for whatever of their reasonings, they're them being fallible. They'll try to spin it as we made a mistake, when really we did good, and we can affirm that to ourselves, so we know that we did good. And other people don't have all the details. Other people have different perspectives. Other people have different agendas. Other people have a lot of times less, like, self-reflection. That's honest truth. A lot of people don't realize that they're just going after goals that are not complex. You're not trying to complexly understand all the perspectives and your authenticity, and it's not our responsibility to get in that way of other people's processes. It's just our responsibility to be honest and authentic to affirming our own values, our own personal values. And yeah, so I just wanted to talk a bit about this subject. And I just really affirm for you that you will be able to practice some of these different, or whatever ways you want, some different ways of managing and changing emotions to feel more secure, and ways to, even beyond security, trying to think of ways to enjoy your life as fun, as a fun process, an enjoyable process. And just really looking to enjoy, envision what are things will enjoy, allow us to, or allow you to enjoy being alive more, and validating those as options as you try to think, like, how to approach your keystone creative projects, or your objectives, or your long-term goals, or whatever, your commitments, whatever form you like to think of your commitments in. So thank you so much for listening. And if you're interested in my resilience coaching, something that I am wanting to experiment with, and practice, actually talking with people, what is this coach role like? Like, I know what a coach role to myself is like, But how does that change or not change when that coach position um, is with other people in support of their goals and their perspectives, and um, just how to help. I just want to help people be able to, because it helps me also as I practice this, but how to help other people feel like even though life doesn't make sense now, this is where I'm at in my own life. Even though life doesn't really make sense right now, there's some things about it that make sense. And we can at least have this strategy and this hope to help us feel secure and certain that we are on a path that is going to give us rewards in the future. Because I know we put so much effort just pushing and thinking, trying to change ourselves, trying to do things so well because we are so passionate about our goals. And we just can't do it alone. And I think the magic of a coach is that, especially if you have, you know that a coach is always going to be on your side. Like, your coach is there to coach you how to offer based on our own experience. Just reminders to help you know that everything that you want is valid, that everything that you want is necessary, because all human beings, like wars and all the horrible things on earth, just war, the general concept, like people harming one another because they are afraid that there's things to compete over, scarcity. It's kind of our human duty in a way to really practice and stay close to this path of being authentic to ourselves and enjoying the process of being alive, which includes peace. It includes understanding the greater cycles, that we are able to trust ourselves and other people more when we don't demonize others, and we're able to, when we don't demonize ourselves. And that is a big part of what allows us to feel fulfilled in our lives, feel that deep sense of meaning, feel that deep, ongoing, reliable sense of our creative processes, like having more grit and personal just feeling and conviction to pour inside of, and yeah, that's what I think. At least that's what I think, that it's so important to have resilience and creativity at the center of our lives. Our responsibility as human beings to keep these practices and traditions and values alive, which make the world a sane place with hope in it. So anyways, and my life definitely was not like this in the past. It's something that I went through a lot of horrible experiences in order to come to these, I don't know, these thoughts and feelings. And there's been so many people online who I don't even know what would happen to me if I didn't have their help, like, in order to hear these honestly genius, like, heartfelt, miraculous kind of thoughts and different perspectives. And yeah, there are miracles in being alive. We just gotta stay tuned and look for them and know that they're there. and get in touch with what we want to experience, be real with ourselves, because that is the only way we can find a miracle. Because a miracle just means something that your heart wants so bad, you don't think it's possible, it comes true. So in order to have a miracle, we have to be really in touch and honest with ourselves for what we truly want, and allow ourselves to dream and to not judge ourselves, or, you know. Anyway, thank you so much again, and take care. Talk soon. Bye.